Okay, so we're going to solve inequalities and we're going to graph them, and then we're going to put them in interval notation. And probably the biggest thing people have problems is putting them in interval notation. So we'll kind of take a good hard look at that. Now, to solve an inequality like this, and we know it's an inequality because it has a less than, or a greater than, or greater than equal to, or less than or equal to. All right, to solve it, we're going to solve it like an equation. But there is one rule we have to remember. Whenever we multiply or divide by a negative number, it flips this symbol over. All right, so let's solve this as if this was an equal sign. The first thing we would do if it was an equal sign is we'd add 8 to get our x by itself. So let's add 8 to both sides. And I get 2x is less than 20. All right, last step is we're going to divide by 2. So let's notice I've divided by 2 on both sides, but I'm dividing by a positive. A positive does not change this sign around. So we end up getting x is less than 10. All right, now that is our solution. And in your homework, I believe they refer to that as inequality notation. So if you see inequality notation, you're just talking about x is less than 10. But let's go ahead and graph this thing, and then we will put it in interval notation. Now to graph it, I'm going to use the draw feature in here, and this is supposed to be a straight line, but I just don't draw real well. It's not too bad. Okay, so that's the number line, and let's notice that we have x is less than 10. So I'm going to put 10 in the center, and then I'll just put a few numbers on either side of my 10. It's too bad that I can't draw a little bit better than I do. 11, 12, and they should be evenly spaced, but I'm not perfect when I draw on this thing. And of course, a few numbers this way. 9 and 8. All right. Now, since there's no equal sign with this inequality, I need an open bracket. And I want you to notice that it points toward the left. And as long as x is on the left, we can go by this rule. It's pointing toward the left. So I want my open bracket to open toward the left. So that's an open bracket. Not drawn very well, but it's open. If it were closed, it would look like this, where it has hard corners on it. Like that. All right, so open bracket. And since this is pointing toward the left, I'm going to shade. My solution is everything on this side of 10. And that's not very good shading, I know. But trying to shade better and just making it sloppier. All right, maybe, actually, I could do this. For my shading, that might be better. So everything over here on the left is part of my solution. Now, we're going to put that in interval notation. I want you to notice, first of all, that on the right we have that open bracket. And some of you might have learned in previous classes to put an open circle there. And that's fine. We can put an open circle there. If we put an open circle, it would just look like an open circle, except more like a circle than my little bad drawing. All right, just an open circle around that 10 is exactly the same kind of graph. All right, but when I do interval notation, since I had made that open bracket here, I'm going to have an open bracket on the right, and I'm going to have a 10 there, because that's where my open bracket is, except I can't draw. Let's do that again. I'm going to have that 10. But before that 10, and it's very important that we go left to right in order. So I want you to notice that we have shaded way out here, and we could go forever in this direction. We could keep drawing this line all the way into the negatives. So this really goes forever to the left. It goes into negative infinity. And if we think of negative infinity as being out here in this direction, and positive infinity being out here in this direction. This goes to negative infinity, and you'll notice I'm putting it on the left, okay, because I want it to go from left to right, and infinity will always have that open bracket, and I kind of didn't make that look very open. It always has the open bracket next to it. So think left to right, whatever's on the left must go first, and then on the right. If you put this backwards with the infinity symbol after the 10, the negative infinity symbol after the 10, it will count it wrong because it is wrong. It has to be left to right, just as it is on the number line. All right, so let's go to the next problem. And let me get out of the draw feature and let's solve this thing. Now let's notice we have x's on both sides, so we want to pretend like this is an equal sign. So let's get our x's together on one side of the equal sign. I'm going to move this one right here that's on the right. So to get rid of it, I have to subtract 3x. So I'll subtract 3x on the left, and I'll subtract 3x on the right. That means I get negative 6x plus 9 on, plus 9 on the left side. And let me put my greater than or equal to symbol in. The 3 x's are now gone from the right. They have canceled. So I still have to be careful that you don't forget it's a negative 9. It has that minus sign in front of it. So let's continue solving. Let's get this 9 that's on the left with my x over to the right. So we'll subtract 9 from both sides. I get negative 6x on the left. I've got my greater than symbol again. My 9's canceled out. And negative 9 and negative 9, be careful, that's negative 18. Now, we're going to divide out the negative 6 that's still with our x, but this is a negative, so I have to keep them. Dividing by a negative flips this inequality. So as I go to my next step, I'm going to have x's, and I'm going to flip the inequality to a less than or equal to. So less than or equal to, and negative 18 divided by negative 6 is a positive 3. All right, so dividing by a negative flips the inequality. So let's draw this thing, graph it, and then we'll get our interval notation. So again, I'm going to try really hard to draw a nice straight line. I did pretty well in the first one. This is a little more wiggly, but we get the idea. Kind of hard to draw on the computer here. All right, so I've got a 3. I'm going to put that in the center. And I'll put a couple of numbers over to the right of it. Again, they should be evenly spaced. I'm just not perfect writing on the computer. And then a couple of numbers going this way. All right, now I'll go ahead and get a different pen color. All right, now x is less than or equal to. This time I do have an equal to. Notice again it's pointing to the left, so I'm going to make that square bracket at 3 pointing to, or opening toward the left. So the square bracket looks like that, meaning the 3 is included in our solutions, and it points toward the left, so I will shade going toward the left. All right, so now that I've got that, again, let's go from left to right. This is going forever to the left, so it's going to start with negative infinity. Notice the open bracket next to the infinity symbols. And then it's going to end with 3, but the 3 has a closed bracket. So I need a closed bracket, like so. Okay, now let's look at one more. Let's solve this thing, graph it, and put it in interval notation. All right, so let me get out of the draw feature. First, I need to distribute that negative 4 through the parentheses. So that's going to give me negative 4x, and negative 4 times the minus 2 is plus 8. Watch your signs. Still have my less than or equal to symbol. 2x minus 8. All right, now let's get our x's together. Again, I am going to subtract 2x, get it over to the left, so I have my x's together. And of course, what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. I'll get negative 6x plus 8. On the right side, the 2x's will cancel, and I will still have that negative 8 there. Now, I want to get rid of the 8 that's still with my x over here, so let's subtract 8 from both sides. And then we'll have negative 6x and less than or equal to negative 16. All right, again, let's get rid of the number that's in front of x. Let's notice that it's a negative though, so we've got to flip our symbol around. I'll do that though in the next step. So dividing by a negative 6 on both sides is going to flip our symbol around. So we'll get x is, and I'm going to change this now to a greater than symbol. Greater than or equal to. And let's reduce our fraction. Negative divided by negative makes it positive. I can divide a 2 into the top and get 8, and a 2 into the bottom and get 3. Now here is one instance in algebra where we may want to change this into a mixed number to locate it on the number line. 3 goes into 8 twice, and there's 2 left over. So this is 2 2/3. So when we put this onto the number line, and again, I'll draw as straight as I possibly can. Not very straight. But 2 2/3 is between 2 and 3. So I'm going to put 2 on here and 3 on here. And perhaps 1 or 2 more numbers just to flesh it out a little bit. But 2 2/3, 2/3 of the way will be somewhere right in here. We just have to kind of guess. All right, but notice that we have an equal sign with our inequality, so we'll have a square bracket, and it's pointing toward the right. So we want, oh, let me change colors. We want it to open toward the right, and since it's pointing toward the right, we will shade in this direction. Now let's change this into interval notation. We will have left to right, so this bracket is going to come first, and closed bracket, 2 2/3, or we can write it as 8/3 here. And notice that this one goes forever to the right. So forever to the right, we want an infinity symbol. Now remember, always next to infinity symbols, our bracket is open.